When the Houston Oilers dropped George Blanda from the roster in 1967, Al Davis, the head man in Oakland, felt there might be many good years in pro football left for the talented quarterback and place kicker. Al's decision in bringing Blanda to Oakland proved to be a very shrewd move, for George enjoyed 9 excellent seasons with the Raiders, and his accomplishments in Oakland undoubtedly did much to assure his place among pro football's immortals. Here to present George Blanda is the man who gave him the opportunity to extend a long and eventful career, the managing general partner of the Oakland Raiders. I give you Al Davis today.
For 3 memorable decades, the Oakland Raiders have dominated pro football in terms of consistent victory. The will to win has been a dominating theme of this organization, and no player in the history of pro football had epitomized that will to win more than George Blanda. My life has been years of glory and days of defeat. Today is a day of glory for me to be able to serve in this role. George Blanda has a special place in the hearts of the Oakland Raiders, and especially his teammates who wore the famed silver and black. He wore those colors with pride, with poise, and with class. He was a star among stars. George Blanda came to pro football in 1949 from the University of Kentucky, where his coach was Paul Bear Bryant. Spanning 4 decades, the 40s, the 50s, the 60s, and the 70s, he played 26 incredible seasons, playing in 224 consecutive games for the Chicago Bears, the Houston Oilers, and the Oakland Raiders. It is accurate to say that George is the leading kicker in pro football history. It is accurate to say that his miracle season in 1970 made the greatest impact on pro football for heroism and thrills that the game has ever known. I'd like to go back a few years with you. I'd like to go back to 1970 for a moment and recount 6 great games in the magic, the miracle season of George Blanda. It was October 25th, 1970, Pittsburgh at Oakland. Blanda threw 3 touchdown passes, kicked the field goal, and Oakland won. November 1st, 1970, the Raiders were at Kansas City. 3 seconds left in a football game. Blanda kicks a 49-yard field goal to tie the game 17-17. The 3rd week, the Cleveland Browns are at Oakland with the Raiders trailing 20-13 with only 1:34 left to play in the game. Blanda hits Warren Wells with a 14-yard touchdown pass, kicks the point after to tie the score 20-20. With 3 seconds left to play in the game, Blanda kicks a 52-yard field goal, and Oakland wins again 23-20. The 4th week in the miracle roll, the Raiders at Denver. With 2:28 left in the game, Blanda comes off the bench, throws a 20-yard touchdown pass to Biletnikoff, and the Raiders win 24-19. November 22nd, 1970, the 5th week. With 4 seconds left to go in a football game, Blanda kicks a 16-yard field goal, and we beat San Diego 20-17. And finally, the Raiders are in New York. With 1 second left, LaMonica hit Wells for a 38-yard touchdown pass. Blanda kicks the extra point, and we win 14-13. The amazing thing about those 6 games, in 4 of those games, the total time left in the game that the Raiders won was 11 seconds, and the dynamic factor was the great George Blanda. Some of those people who shared those great moments with him are here today. The great coach of the Oakland Raiders in those days, John Madden, the legendary Jim Otto, and of course his great teammate, Pete Banaszak. The record books tell that he was a truly great quarterback. He was a Player of the Year in the American Football League in 1971 as Houston won their second championship under his direction, and he threw for a record 36 touchdown passes. During his 9 years with the Raiders, we played in 7 championship games. He scored 2,000 points, 200 more than his closest competitor. He passed for 236 touchdowns during his career. It is true that great men inspire in others the will to be great. George Blanda inspired a whole nation. I used to think that the fires that burned brightest in George was the will to win. It was more important than any single event. But George Blanda, a fierce competitor, had a God-given killer instinct to make it happen when everything was on the line. He knew how to lead. He knew how to win. I really believe that George Blanda is the greatest clutch player I have ever seen in the history of professional football. I personally, I've said it before, and I've had the good fortune to be here 3 out of the last 4 years, to come here to this hall and to walk through its exhibits, to pay tribute to those great men whom we all idolized, and of course this great class of Badgrove, Willie Davis, Jim Ringo, and to the class of '71 who's honored here today, Robustelli, Tittle, Van Brocklin, and in whose glory we all share. It is a continuous realization that we owe them a debt, and I, for one, will never forget that debt. George Blanda, I can hear the roar of the crowd. The clock is ticking down. In a few moments, number 16, you will be here at this microphone. It will be the most important play of your life, your enshrinement in the Pro Football Hall of Fame.
Well, actually, I'm not nervous. I'm just waiting for the clock to run down to 2 seconds, and I'm going to start. First of all, I want to thank Al Davis for those kind words. And I think what is said here today will soon be forgotten, but what is being done here will be remembered forever in the Pro Football Hall of Fame. And I guess I'll start my talk out by saying that if I had one word to describe how I feel, and that's pride, proud, being proud to be here and enshrined with the other athletes who had the good fortune to make it to the Pro Football Hall of Fame. I'm also down with a great mom and dad who raised 11 kids, and part of that tradition of playing football in western Pennsylvania. Proud to have grown up in a little town called Youngwood, which was in the heart of football in western Pennsylvania. I was very proud of my heritage. I developed a lot of character in the early days. Learned that hard work, dedication, and discipline, and tenacity, and never giving up, you can succeed and improve your life. I never aspired to be a professional football player. All I wanted to be was to go to the college, get an education, and better my life. And I had the good fortune to attend the University of Kentucky and had the great pleasure of playing under the great legendary Coach Bear Bryant, who is still coaching at the University of Alabama. And he reinforced my spirit of hard work, dedication, and discipline, never giving up. I received my education and my degree and never really aspired to be a professional player, but it happened that I was drafted by the great Chicago Bears and a great George Howlands. George gave me the opportunity to play 10 years, gave me 10 good years of training in what I called the minor leagues at that time, so I could stay out 1 year and get prepared for the great AFL that was coming into existence in 1960. I am very proud to be here and be the 4th AFL player to be inducted in the Pro Football Hall of Fame. Long time in coming, the recognition that we, the founders of the league, the players, the original players, Jim Otto and I, who played in every game of the American Football League of its 10 years. We were ridiculed, we were maligned, we weren't recognized. We tried hard and we played hard. We gave it 110%. I would have never fulfilled the honor of being here today if it hadn't been for Al Davis, who at my age at 39 thought that I could still kick and throw the football a little bit. And when Al called me up in July of 1967 to come back and try out my 3rd season, my 3rd career with the Oakland Raiders, I was the first to jump at it. Without Al and without the Raiders, without that team spirit out there and the pride and poise, the winning attitude, and playing on about 85% of the games we played in 9 years we won with the Raiders. Certainly that attitude was very, very helpful to me, and without Al Davis and without his guidance at the top, managing that club, I wouldn't be here today. I want to thank 2 great coaches that I had at Oakland. Johnny Rouse, who was my coach in 67 and 68. He helped me. He also coached my brother. I also want to thank John Madden, who is here, who put on a great show yesterday. And without John and his leadership, I might not have been there for the 7 years I played for John. I also want to say in closing that I think that the way I feel today, that this is family. I'm so proud that my family will always be remembered in that hall when they came through and see my bust along with Willie, Red, and the other great athletes there, that they would take pride in saying that their dad played 26 years of football, gave it 110% effort every time he was out there, and tried to win when it was against all odds, always were in there trying to win the football game. I'm proud that my wife, Betty, married 31 years. She put up with me for 31 years. Can you believe that? Without her and my 2 lovely children, I could have been retired many, many years before I did. But they encouraged me to continue to play, do the thing I wanted to do. They sacrificed. I sacrificed an awful lot. I missed kids growing up because I was out playing that silly game, having fun, enjoying myself. In the last 5 years since I've retired, I have tried to take the time to fulfill some of the things that I didn't do in those days. With that, I will say that I am certainly proud to be in the Hall of Fame. I am very fortunate that I got to play 26 years of professional football, more than any player that's ever played. And the thrill was competing week after week after week, after year after year after year. I really feel proud and honored that the good Lord gave me the ability and the strength, the upbringing, to continue on the game that I sincerely loved and enjoyed playing. Thank you very much.